So let's start with an example. Okay, Marie has already given you a number of examples, but without too much detail. So let me start with one specific example, okay, and then introduce the concepts. So you will see some repetition of the concept, okay, but that's okay. And we don't need to finish all the slides today. As long as we are learning, I think we're fine, okay. So let me start with this example of EcoZoom, okay, this company. This is a company in Portland, Oregon, in the US. And what's their main product? Well, their first main product is just cooking stoves. Okay, cooking stoves. Later on, they introduced some new products. But the first one, the main one, was cooking stoves. The stove burns charcoal, firewood, etc. Okay, but it is highly efficient and thus environmental friendly. Okay, now you are young. You don't remember the days when, we in China, we have to burn the fireworks to cook. Okay, so I was old enough. So when I was a 5-year-old, my grandma would just cook inside the house with a stove which is built from brick. Okay, there was a chimney, to let go the smoke. All right, so it was a very, very bad environment, and probably not as efficient as the cooking stove designed by EcoZoom. Okay, so their slogan is to give poor families in the developing countries access to life-changing, eco-friendly energy solutions. Okay. So this is their website. You can go and take a look. Okay. All right. So what are the problems identified? Okay. So the theory, you see the theory guys here. What are the problems identified? Why not yet solved by a government or the market? Okay. And what are the solutions? Right. So what are the problems? Well, billions of people in developing countries don't have access to electricity and gas. Okay. So they cook with solid fuels daily on unhealthy and inefficient fires. Okay, use dangerous kerosene lamps to light their homes, right? Okay, and women spend grueling hours gathering fuel, and families can spend up to 30% of their monthly income on fuel, forcing them into energy poverty. So I know one of you is working on or doing research on energy poverty, right? So, relying on fuels like firewood, charcoal, and kerosene contributes greatly to environmental degradation, air pollution, and climate change. Okay, so therefore, if they can minimize the use of these fuels through more efficient and clean cook stoves and solar lighting, to light the house for studying, for example, will reduce environmental impact. Okay, so what is the solution that they provided? So they claim that they are a social enterprise delivering clean burning portable cooking, cook stoves and solar powered lighting solutions. Okay, so they think, this is healthier, okay, more efficient, and eco-friendly. Okay, and more importantly, it works with NGOs, governments, aid organizations, local businesses, and entrepreneurs who want to create notable and sustainable social and environmental impact. Now, why do they need to work with these people? Well, it's because the stove that they designed, even though it looks simple like this, right? It sells for $120 US. Okay, $120 US. Now remember, we have countries which have a per capita GDP of 300, 500 US dollars. Okay, 120 is a big deal, right? The poor family still cannot afford it. So that's why they need, the NGOs, the governments and organizations, etc., to help foot the bill, okay? It will not be completely free for the poor families, but they will get some help from those organizations, okay? So here you see the efficiency standard here, right? I'm not a scientist, so, and also the poor families, they probably don't recognize all these numbers and do not know how to interpret these numbers. So you need a better slogan here. So the slogan is, our stoves use 70% less fuel and produce 60% less smoke. Okay, so that's very effective slogan, okay? Much better than the standard listed here for technical parameters, right? So this is the slogan, and you see the woman here happily using that the cook stove. Okay, you say, well, that's really low tech, right? It's not really the technological innovations that our students at or professors at HKUST are capable of. Okay, we can do much better things. Well, here there are some examples. I'm going to show you some examples which use more of a high tech. Okay, so this is a paper by Mariel Catarini and the co-authors, published in Stanford Social Innovation Review. Okay, so they talk about social tech. Okay, social tech entrepreneurs. They think these are the building blocks of a new social economy. Okay, so they mentioned, in European Commission, they issued a policy brief, Industry 5.0. Okay, so talking about inclusive prosperity. Okay, so in Chinese we say 共同富裕. Okay, so I think this course is pretty much on track. It's very timely. Okay, so we are talking about the third redistribution, right? We're talking about inclusive prosperity, right? 第三次分配, right? 共同富裕. Okay, so all these. So how to do that effectively? Okay, the third redistribution, if you just kind of force the rich people to give donations to poor people, that's different than coming up with social entrepreneurship ideas to help people, solving some social problems. Okay, so it's different. Okay, and the social tech entrepreneur leverages technology not just to make parts of their operations more efficient, but to prompt a disruptive change. Okay, so that's the key word that I want to highlight. It's a disruptive change. Okay, using technological innovation. Okay, so let me give you a few examples. Kerbidet is an automatic toilet system that ensures, dignity and self-dependence for people with reduced mobility. Okay, so I just came back from visiting my mom, who was very sick in bed. Okay, she has, she has reduced mobility, just can't move. Okay, so therefore going to toilet is like a torture. Okay, it's like a daily torture. Now this automatic toileting system, okay, if you just, there's a YouTube available, so you just go to the YouTube and you watch it. It's very fancy. It's very convenient. Okay, it solves this problem, even for people with disability. Okay, so they'll have no problem. The problem for me is that they still look a bit expensive. Okay, so maybe it's good enough for the disabled people or the old age people in the advanced economies, but probably not as useful in the developing countries for the poor people. Okay, so that's one example. The second example is algorithm that spot delays in interest or energy bill payments as an early proxy of emergent poverty. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, they design all these algorithms which can identify some people who are either already in trouble or are going to be in trouble, okay, because they are missing some payments. Okay, so then you go and visit and ask why, okay, and do they really need help? Okay, so that's a bit like an AI kind of innovation. Okay, and this MPhil system Marie already mentioned. Okay, so this is some kind of innovation based on mobile phone. Okay, so it's a prepaid mobile phone kind of accounts. So you can use that to do transactions. Okay, so if you have minutes which are not used, you can lend to somebody else who are short of the minutes for this month. Okay, so there's you can do lending and borrowing, and this Tala is the loan kind of service. Okay, so they use all these information and data from from the mobile phone, and they can identify whether somebody is of a good credit or bad credit. Okay, and also the use of drones to deliver medicines in remote areas, and platforms like HKUST job to make sure that in the agricultural industry, the laborers got hired on a fair contractual basis. Okay, so these are some high techs, social tech. Okay, so here's the definition. I'm not going to repeat. So the simple definition is to say, well, it's an entrepreneurship activity with a social purpose. Okay, so that is easy to say, but what do you mean by social? Is serving poor people social? Is serving middle income people not social? Okay. In fact, some people might claim that any firm, for-profit firm, is social because they provide employment. Okay. So how do we distinguish, right? So before the break, I think there was a question about Facebook, right? Can Facebook be considered as, as a social enterprise? What do you think? Can it be considered a social enterprise? Suppose tomorrow you see on the front page says Facebook claims to be a social enterprise. What would be your reaction?
I think I would be doubtful.
Only doubtful?
And confucius.
Confusion.
Yeah.
You're not
I think Facebook, its main idea is to make money. It's a profit oriented company. Even though they do some business like setting up some internet for the poor country or some for the poor region, their ultimate purpose is not to go there to provide internet, but to increase to increase their users there, and in term
I don't think you
goal is to make money.
I don't think you can suspect their motivation, right? I mean, you say they just want to provide the internet connection because they want them to use Facebook. That they may not admit, okay?
Yeah,
And
but,
maybe true that
I
they
don't
have
think
this
they're
global.
okay, but I don't think the major business is to set internet everywhere. Their major business is not that. It's not the social enterprise behavior, but something else. So I don't
To
I would
make
not
money
recognize.
from their advertisement mainly. Okay. So if that is on the front page, I think many people, especially those social entrepreneurs, will be very angry. Okay. They will write open letters to Facebook and say, don't use our name. Okay. You are, a for-profit company, and your objective is to maximize, the profit and give the highest returns to the investors, who bought the stock. Okay. So I mean, even the investors would not be happy when they see this claim. Okay, because they want the Facebook to make money. Okay, to return, um, favorable profit, back to them. Okay.
Could I ask related problems?
Yeah.
For example, I think there are many companies in the mainland to develop power energy, and I think the first time they just want to earn money, but for the objectivity, they actually improve the environmental problems. So as those entrepreneurs are social entrepreneurship.
Okay. So this is I think actually Marie also asked similar questions, which I'm going to ask again. We can talk again to sharpen the concept of social enterprise. Okay. So here I give you a bunch of definitions, but the one that strikes me is the third one. Okay, is the social, I think, which is also the most clear. Okay, so social entrepreneurship is addressing neglected problems with positive externalities. Okay, so this is given by Santos in 2012, highlighting the focus on value creation rather than value capturing. Okay, so if this is a company which focuses on value creation, okay, social value, here we're talking about social value, okay, rather than value capturing. Value capturing means, you just want to capture larger piece of the market, you capture the most of the profit, okay. So if you are trying to focus on the value capturing, you are trying to maintain control, okay, trying to maintain control. But if you are an enterprise that focuses on value creation, you focus more on empowerment, okay? Empower people to do the right thing, okay? To bring back, the clean atmosphere, okay? Clean air, right? To reduce the dependency of global warming, right? Or to help the poor people to have access to clean energy, and have better sanitation, okay? So, for that purpose, then the social enterprises, will try to identify such a neglected problem, usually in a localized environment, or focus on this, disadvantaged group, okay, the poor people, or people with disability, okay, and then demonstrate a solution to address the problem, and often influence governments to create legislation that legitimates and supports your innovation. So sometimes your innovation might be so disruptive. At the beginning, it might be even in the gray area, whether it is legal or illegal, okay? But in the end, you know, when the government sees the big change, sees its usefulness, and maybe you know, put in some new laws to help it scale up. Okay, so that's the definition that I think makes things clear to me. Okay, so here's the discussion. Okay, so the one that you just mentioned is closer to the corporate social responsibility of a commercial enterprise rather than a social enterprise. Okay, so here the example that I want to mention is this. There's this company, Salesforce. Okay, they have a website called salesforce.com. Okay, so they claim to be the world's #1 customer relations management solution. Okay, so they claim that they help a lot of small business firms to take care of their customers. Okay, so they claim that they are a social enterprise. Okay, they actually applied for a trademark on the term social enterprise in July 2012. Okay, but that prompted a lot of angry voices. Okay, so the social enterprise United Kingdom formed a coalition called Not in Our Name. Okay, asking that the Salesforce cease to use the term social enterprise for private profit. Okay, in fact, the Nobel Prize winners signed an open letter demanding Salesforce to retract their application for for the trademark of social enterprise. Okay, so essentially they are a for-profit organization. It may show that they have some corporate social responsibility because they help, the poor firms. I mean the small and medium size enterprise, but their main objective is to make money by providing, the customer relationship management solution to all the firms. Okay, so there are still some differences here. And social enterprises versus non-profits. What are the relations between these two? So first of all, non-profits. Can non-profits make profit?
No.
Okay.
The
correct
founder.
answer is it depends. It depends in which country you're talking about. Okay. So in the US, for example, non-profits are allowed to make profits. Okay. But you cannot distribute the profits to the board member, okay, to the CEOs. Okay. You cannot. Okay. But in other countries, you are right that they are not allowed to make profits. Okay, so they should just barely survive, barely make even. But social enterprise is allowed to make profit. Okay.
Professor, may I ask, what is the private profit you state here?
Sorry?
What's the definition of private profit you stated here?
Private profit? Where did I say?
And the second sub point, yeah.
Oh, for private profit means that they are not actually, they're just for the profit of their own, for Salesforce. Okay. So they don't want them I mean, the social enterprise UK don't want the Salesforce.com to use social enterprise, which they believe it belong to them, belong to social enterprise UK. So don't use our name for your benefit or for your private benefit, okay, for your private profit, okay. So this just means the profit for Salesforce.com in this sentence, okay. All right. So what is the difference between or similarities or relationship between social enterprise and impact investing? Well, I mean, impact investing can be one of the sources of funds for social enterprises. Okay, so remember, social enterprises can get funding from the government as grants, okay, or from donors, right? Or from impact investing. Okay, so these are the investors who, on the one hand, look for some return, financial return, but on the other hand, also care about social impact that the entity that they are investing in can generate. Okay, so this is the impact investing. Okay. So what is the relationship between social enterprise and public agencies? Well, again, so social enterprise may need help from public agencies. Okay, but they are different from the public agencies themselves. Okay. Okay, what is the difference between social enterprise and activism? What is activism?
Probably like social movements or like some demonstrations that may happen from time to time to protest for a certain issue, or for instance, like like there are some just the social activities for women empowerment recently, which is quite prevailing.
Yes. Okay, just a minute. I think I forgot to record. Or maybe I already recorded. Anyway, so resume recording. Yes, you're right. So the activism is for some cause, okay? Maybe, for women's, inequality, right? Or maybe for some particular social issues, right? They often use, the mechanism that you described, use demonstrations, use strikes, okay? So they are not trying to sell some goods and services, okay, to solve some social problems. Okay, so they are not trying to do that. They advocate calling attention to, for example, child labor. Okay, so they go against child labor, or maybe they call attention to preserving, say the animals. Okay, so don't, they don't want people to use animals for experiments. Okay, so those are, activism. Okay, but they may be related in some cases. Okay. And what is the difference between social enterprise and the state-owned enterprises? In China, it seems to me that some of the functions that are served by social enterprises in in Western countries are actually shouldered by the state-owned enterprises. Okay, do you agree? if that's so, does that mean that we don't need social enterprises in China? Because we have, you know, wonderful state-owned enterprises.
I don't think so. Maybe if even though we have a state-owned enterprise to do something for the social benefits, but establish a social and an enterprise maybe they could encourage the private sectors to participate in this process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I think I think state-owned enterprises, they most of them cover like the resource and like the energy provider, and they cover more like the infrastructure, but that's not for the whole society. For example, some very micro services should be provided by some by the social enterprises, or like the cooperation with the 居委会, the neighborhood committee. Yeah.
Okay.
Because to me, I suppose that one major concern for social enterprises back in mainland would be like the regulatory power held by the public agencies, as you mentioned earlier, because of certain, let's say, regulation issues. And sometimes you have to go through really, let's say, strict assessment procedures before establishing your social enterprise. Maybe that's my, so I mean, like the kind of regulations and rules that you have to obey. Maybe let's say kind of the obstacle that hinders kind of those kind of prospective social entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we will see that the social enterprises in China, currently the number are still small, okay, even though there was a growing trend, okay. So I think we will see more and more social enterprises, but we should not ignore that the state-owned enterprises sometimes are providing the kind of goods and services that the social entrepreneurs are trying to help resolve. Okay, so they do provide, for example, electricity in poor regions. Okay, so when I talk to some of the government officials in Anhui, they say, well, even the poorest regions, they already, I mean, the government already helped install all these solar energies, okay, solar panel. And they actually the peasants make money from those solar panels. But the question is whether the state-owned enterprises are doing that efficiently. Okay, are the efficient solution to those problems? Okay, whether leaving it to social entrepreneurs would be a more efficient kind of solution. Okay, so here's a brief history of social entrepreneurship. There'll be more detail later, in lecture 4. Okay, so social entrepreneurship has a long history around the world, though under different names and with different characteristics. Okay, we can say we already have social entrepreneurship, a long time ago with the state-owned enterprises. Okay, state-owned enterprises, they also make profit sometimes, and they also try to solve some social problems. Okay. Now the first description of a social enterprise as a democratically owned and run trading organization that is financially independent, has social objectives, and operates in an environmentally responsible way, was put forward by Mr. Freer Speckley in UK in 1978. Okay, so in 1978, this concept of social enterprise, okay, financially independent, having social objectives, okay, and environmentally responsible. So this idea was already there in 1978, okay. And later, the social enterprise as an entity flourished, okay. And we can see social enterprise as a response to market failure and state failure, okay. But different countries may emphasize different part of the failures. For example, UK emphasizes more about market failure, and in US they are more skeptical about the government. Okay, so they worry more about state failure, and I think social enterprise is one of the solutions. Okay, so in both UK and the United States, they provided some legal form for social enterprise. Okay, so in many countries, they only have two legal forms, either for-profit or non-profit. Okay, in US, they have something special for social enterprise. Okay, it's called L3C. It's low profit limited liability company. Okay, so 3L, low profit limited liability. Okay, L3 company, L3C. Okay, in UK, they have community interest company, CIC. So that's also a special entity. Okay, now in China, we don't have that yet. We'll try to call attention for that. Okay, maybe someday we'll be able to change the legal system in China so that the social enterprise can be given a special status. Okay. 32 countries and areas are developing their social entrepreneurship ecosystem. Okay, so 22 of them have formal accreditation mechanism. Well, accreditation mechanism exists in China. Okay, exists in China, but so far only locally. Okay, in several cities, like Chengdu, Beijing, and Shunde, and Shenzhen, Futian district in Shenzhen. So they are kind of local. So hopefully this accreditation framework will be brought to a national level. Okay. In the USA, for example, this B Corp accreditation by B Lab is a popular accreditation framework. Okay, so you can apply for a B Corp status. Okay, you can say, well, my company is accredited by B Lab as a B Corp. Okay, and you may say, well, what's the big deal? What's the use for that? Okay, well, some foundations or some donors, they actually will donate or be able to give grants to companies with such kind of status, okay, with a special accreditation, right? So that's one of the benefits, even though it does not really carry kind of tax exemption for the B Corp. Okay, and also South Korea and Japan, they were successful. South Korea pushed for social entrepreneurship after Asian financial crisis. When many people lose their jobs, and Japan also pushed for social entrepreneurship after the big earthquake. Okay, the tsunami. Okay, so we'll talk more in lecture 4. And these are the organizations promoting social entrepreneurship. Okay, so we know that the Grameen Bank, right, started by Yunus, the Nobel Prize winner, and working with Bragg. Okay, so they kind of promote social entrepreneurship. They were social entrepreneurs. Okay, so they also want to promote social entrepreneurship worldwide. Okay, and Ashoka is one of the main promoter of social entrepreneurship. Okay, so this is a company in Arlington, Virginia, but it has organizations, branches, worldwide. Okay, and Skoll Foundation. Okay, you already saw one video by Skoll Foundation, right? So Skoll, Mr. Skoll himself was the founder of eBay, and later he used the money that he made for philanthropy. Okay, and Echoing Green Foundation, New York-based, New Profit Inc., based in Boston, and Schwab Foundation, based in Geneva, AVPN, that's in Asia, okay, based in Singapore. And Yip family is a Hong Kong-based family, and they supported the Marie's Course, okay. And in mainland China, I talked to people in Yucheng and Leping, and I'm sure there are many others that I don't know yet, okay. Academic institutions promoting social entrepreneurship. So you see in the US, you have Harvard, Stanford, UPenn, Yale, Princeton, all these top names have programs on social entrepreneurship. Okay, and the playbook that I assign to you is basically the one put together by the group in Wharton. Okay, Wharton School, Business School of UPenn. Okay. And Oxford University holds Skoll World Forum, which is very influential. And for us, for Guangzhou campus, I think we aim to generate our own intellectual property in social enterprise research. Okay, so you are my hope. Okay. There are 3 types of social entrepreneurs. Okay, I'm going to talk a bit more, details in lecture 2. Here, I just want to mention that these 3 names. Okay, the social bricklayer, social constructionist, and social engineer. Okay, so what are the differences? Well, the social bricklayer. So basically, these are the people who find problems nearby, okay, and use the tools that exist, okay. So these are like handymen, all right. So they know the problem and they see a problem, they know the tools, and then they just use the tools to fix the problems. Okay, so these are local and small scale social problems. Okay, we call them social bricklayer. Okay, so so even though they are local and probably small, they are very much in need. Okay, so they serve the purpose, okay, of solving some immediate and local community problems. Okay, and social constructionists, they kind of think or imagine, okay, what might be a problem, right? So they have a very alert senses, okay? And they also come up with innovative solutions to solve the problem. Okay, and the social engineer is like, Yunus, okay, the Nobel Prize winner, right? So before Yunus came to the scene in Bangladesh, only 1% of the total loans goes to women. Only 1% of the loans goes to women. So after Yunus, it's a game changer. Okay, it changed the entire lending landscape. Okay, so Yunus almost uniformly lent to women. Okay, so it's very revolutionary. Okay, so these are called social engineer, right? So these three types of social entrepreneurs, they vary in how they discover social opportunities, how they determine their impact, and how they assemble resources to solve the problem. Okay, and they also have some unique ethical issues, which we'll talk about maybe next week. So these are some journal publications, and for your task of coming up with some research ideas, research proposal, so you can do that from various different perspectives. Okay, it may come from perspective of entrepreneurship, management, organization theory. Okay, or maybe you're like me, you're an economist. You look from the economist point of view. Okay, etc. Right. So I gave some example questions. Now, these questions may have already been solved or may have already been published. I don't know. Okay. So, for example, whether the SE funders, whether they have the credibility or the incentives. Okay. So maybe we can ask, what kind of legal system and regulations would separate a true social entrepreneur from the opportunistic ones or the fake ones? Okay, so maybe in China we don't have social entrepreneurship as a separate legal entity, maybe because it's difficult. Okay, because lots of people will claim that they are social entrepreneurs. Okay, how do you distinguish? How do you separate, the true ones who are passionate about solving social problems, and those who are just trying to get subsidy? Okay, so this is one potential research question, but it may have been solved or written already. So you need to do, literature survey, find out whether it has been solved. If it has, then maybe there are something else which are related to this, which have not been solved. Okay, what kind of data you would need to collect, et cetera, right? Okay, so let me see, I have 4 minutes. So let me just briefly talk about this, this 3 chapters. The details you can probably read through afterwards. Okay, we'll continue also next week. Articulate your target problem and substantiate your proposed solution. Okay, so basically these are the questions that guide you. Okay, so who is suffering? What are they suffering from and when? Okay, what is causing the suffering? How many people are affected? Okay, where are they located? Okay, so it's about geographic distribution. So what is your solution? Okay, how? And who and how many will benefit? Okay, what major costs will be incurred? So those are the kind of questions you would ask yourself. Whether you are going to structure it as a business. Okay, if it is, then how will the revenue or income be generated? If it's not a business, how are you going to finance all the operating cost. And the beneficiaries' behavior change. Okay, so normally when we say, this social enterprise is going to cause some social change, okay, social behavior change, right? So sometimes you maybe, your product, you think it's very good, but people don't want to use it, okay, because it causes them to change their behavior and they don't want to, okay? They're used to the old ways of doing things, right? So you have to look into this behavioral change, okay? And performance criteria, okay? So how to measure the benefits been delivered, okay? Like how many lives saved, how many disease cases cured, right? How many people who now are able to read, how many people are getting access to sanitary water, have access to cheap energy, efficient energy, etc. So how do you measure it? What is the unit of measurement? Okay. So select those measurements closely correlate with your desired social benefits. Okay. And finally, define and segment your target population. Okay, so who are going to be the beneficiaries? Okay, and what population is the easiest for you to reach out to? Okay, so you may have you look at the different set of people, and you ask the question. Actually, the book tells you, gives you a guide to put together a table that shows whether you want to work on group A first or group B first, okay? So you have several categories of questions you want to answer, and then you determine which one to go first, okay? So I'm gonna make the slides available online, and you can go through some of these, for example, the questions to identify the groups that you want to reach out first, okay?